This presentation is meant for the students of semester 3 on general English subject. This is MD Jalil, Assistant Professor of English, Department of English, Tara Government College Autonomous, Sangareddy. In our previous presentations, we have started our unit number 2, and this unit number 2 has been divided into 4 sections. Among the 4 sections, first section is a poem, Punishment in Kindergarten, and the second section is prose piece of writing titled Toasted English, written by R.K. Narayan, and the third section is vocabulary, British and American English, and the fourth one is grammar. Under this we have voice. So in our previous presentations, we started the prose lesson, Toasted English, and 4 parts are completed yet, and in today's presentation we try to take part number 5, fifth one. So in our previous presentations, so far we have completed the first activity called as pre-reading activity. In this activity, we came across some of the questions that inspire us, motivate us towards the lesson Toasted English. After that, we move to the second section of the lesson, that is about the writer, about the author. And this lesson is written by R.K. Narayan, a familiar personality in Indian writings in English. He nearly published 60 books, among them 15 are novels, and some of his novels are adapted into films and televisions. And R.K. Narayan created an imaginary south town named Malgudi, which resembles South Indian culture in it, and all his stories, fiction stories, fictitious stories take place in this town called Malgudi. And he was awarded numerous awards, Padma Bhushan, the Padma Vibhushan, and he was nominated to Rajya Sabha as Member of Parliament in 1989. There he fought to make the weight of children's school bags, to decrease the weight of the children's school bag. And the present lesson is an essay written by R.K. Narayan. When R.K. Narayan visited as a visiting professor to an American university during the year 1969, in this present essay, he presents what he observed in the country of America on English language during his visit. So all these things are presented very effectively in the essay called Toasted English. Toasting is something, a process that is related to slice of bread. So to change the form of the bread, they toast it. They place that bread under the heat, and till its color changes to brown, they keep it under the heat. So R.K. Narayan says that in the essay, the Americans also toasted, means they changed the English language according to according to their needs. And the present essay and some other essays are presented or placed in the collection of essays titled The Reluctant Guru, which is published in the year 1974. So from that collection of essays, the present lesson, Toasted English, has been made a part. And in this essay, R.K. Narayan focuses on 3 points majorly. Among them, the first one is how Americans have adopted this language according to their needs. Second point is what are the changes that have adopted by the Americans in presenting in using English language. And the third point is the need to change English language according to our Indian situation, according to our needs, to invent a new kind of English language in India. So in previous presentations, we have started taking the text of the essay. In the essay, R.K. Narayan begins with the concept of toasting English. So the Americans threw the Britishers out from their country. They retained their language, but they changed the language according to their needs, their requirements. And so there we can notice very clearly the differences between the British English and the American English. And he also presents that the Americans have freed English language from the dictatorship of passive voice. British people, they use more and more passive voice in their language, which make the users creates a kind of difficulty to use the language. But the Americans use more and more active voice instead of passive voice. Where the Britishers say trespassing is prohibited, the Americans simply say newly planted don't walk. So in this way, Americans have changed the language according to their needs. And on their signal boards also, on their sign boards also, Americans use simple words like go and wait at road crossings. So this makes everyone to understand the instructions and follow them very easily. So in this way, Americans have changed English language that suits to their requirements. And apart from this, Americans also changed English language, modified English language according to their convenience, their comfort, by using some new words. For example, he begins with a word check, C-H-E-C-K. And R.K. Narayan calls terms the word check as American national expression, because this word suits at any kind of situation at any given time. For example, if you are in a difficulty in using an appropriate noun or verb at a given situation in America, then you can very easily use the word check, and that word suits to that situation perfectly. So the word check is generally used with check rooms in America where we can leave our luggage, and also the words check in, check out, they describe the arrival or departure in a hotel. And check girls are also there in America who care of a person's coat, umbrella, or belongings like that. And in this way, the word check can be used at any place very easily. And one more word that is used by Americans very frequently is the word fabulous. So fabulous, actually in a dictionary meaning, we use the word fabulous to tell something pleasant, something great, successful. But Americans use this word fabulous in many occasions, such as to hint towards a man about his lunacy. They use the word fabulous by saying that this person is so and so is fabulous. So in this way, they also frequently use the word fabulous. And one more word very commonly used by Americans is okay. And the shortened form O and K is just produced by a slight grunt of the tongue. And they also use the word yeah very frequently, which is which is very often replaced in the expression of yes sir or yes madam, because the expression yeah stops the sentence, seals a sentence without adding sir or madam to that expression. So in this way, American people very simply, very easily, they use the above mentioned word in many occasions, in many situations. So this was the part briefly that we have covered in our last previous presentations on toasted English. In today's our presentation, our fifth presentation on toasted English, we try to see the important points that have covered by R.K. Narayan in his essay. So in this paragraph, R.K. Narayan says that the refinements of usage in countries where English has a bazaar status are worth a study. On a London bus, you will never hear the conductor cry, ticket, ticket. He approaches the passenger and says, thank you. And then on receiving the fare says, thank you, sir. So R.K. Narayan tells us that here we have an interesting thing to study. We can study. It is a worth to study. It has the meaning to study. What? The refinements of usage. The refinements, refining means the purity, the usage in countries, in some countries where English has a bazaar status. Bazaar is an Indian word, a Urdu Hindi word, bazaar. Bazaar means the language that is used in the streets by common people. English also has bazaar status. Bazaar status means its usage, its status. Bazaar means it can be used in streets as a common language. So in some countries, English is a bazaar state because it is used by everyone in every common place. So if we observe that language, how English language is used in bazaars, it is worth to study. So we can study how people are using it. What is its status in bazaar? For example, if we see the example of a London bus, because English in London is a street language, a bazaar, it has bazaar street because it is that country's own language, their mother tongue. So it has the bazaar status in England. So in London, if we observe in London, a London bus where common people get into the bus, London bus, you will never hear the conductor cry. If you get into a London bus, you will never hear, you cannot hear what the conductor cry. The conductor never he cries, he shouts, he says. Conductor never says. What? Ticket, ticket. In our Indian buses, when the conductor comes, when we enter into the bus, the conductor comes to us and he asks for us the ticket. But in London bus, you never observe that the conductor crying ticket. He approaches the passenger, simply approaches. The conductor comes to the passenger and says, and coming to the passenger, he says, thank you. Just he says, thank you. And on receiving the fare, and when we tell our station where we have to get down, by giving the fare, by taking the fare, by receiving the fare, the conductor says, thank you, sir. So in this way, the conductor approaches a passenger and expresses two kinds of expressions. First, he approaches to the passenger and says thank you to ask the fare, to ask the station. And after receiving the fare, the money, he says thank you, sir. So this we can observe in London on a London bus. I found out that one could calculate the number of passengers in a bus by halving the total number of thanks heard. In any Western countries, if a receptionist asks, can I help you? It really means, have you any business here? If so, state it. Or it may mean, evidently you have wandered off into a wrong place, go away. I found, so R.K. Narayan found out that one could calculate the number of passengers. So by observing the travel on a London bus, R.K. Narayan concludes that very easily a person can calculate, we can count the number of passengers in a bus. So we can count, we can calculate how many passengers are there in the bus. How? By halving. Halving means making half. By making the number half, 50%, the total number of thanks heard. So just to calculate the number of passengers, there is no need to count the heads of the passengers in the bus. Just if we can count the number of thanks, because in the previous lines, we saw that on a London bus, conductor approaches to a single passenger, one passenger, and he is uttering the expression thanks for twice. One for receiving the money and asking for the money, and second one is after receiving the money. So one passenger equals to two thanks there. So in that way, by counting the word thanks and making those words into half, because one person equals two thanks. One person is receiving two thanks from the conductor. So if we count the total number of thanks there and making them half, that gives us the number of passengers. So in this way, humorously, R.K. Narayan telling us that we can calculate the number of passengers on a London bus very easily. In any Western countries, R.K. Narayan also tells us that in any Western countries, if we go to a Western country and the receptionist asks, and if we go to the receptionist and when she says, can I help you? When the receptionist says, can I help you? actually it really means. Of course, our expression is, may I help you, can I help you? But actually, it seems that her meaning, she does mean that, have you any business here? So you came here, do you have any business? Do you have any work here? If so, state it. So please don't waste my time. If you have any work, please tell me, state it. Or it may mean, otherwise, we can take the expression may give this meaning that evidently you have wandered off into a wrong place. Evidently, very clearly, you have wandered means you have come, you came here off into a wrong place. So this is not your place. Just you came for without any work here. Uh, so you came to a wrong place and you go away. So leave this place. So actually that was her intention. We feel like that. That was that kind of intention of the receptionist. But openly the receptionist says that, can I help you? So by that expression, we can understand the inner meaning of that receptionist in any Western countries. And we also can see that uh, a man who wants to pass you always says, excuse me, while he may with all justice burst out, what do you mean by standing there gaping at the world while you block everybody's passage? Stand aside, man. So a man who wants to pass you. So in those countries, in Western countries or in America, we can observe that a person who passes by you, who just wants to overtake you, that person says, excuse me. So in that expression, just is asking to excuse him, you, but actually what does he mean? So that word excuse me, that word has a very deeper meaning in it, in his expression. We can come to know that he may with all justice burst out. With all justice means actually he has that kind of right, justice, to say, to utter this expression that, what do you mean by standing? So why are you standing? What do you mean? Why are you standing there in this place, gaping? Gape means making wide, means stretched, means occupying a lot of space. So you are standing in between, and by taking a lot of place, you are not only the one person to stand here, many other persons are also here. So why you are standing so stretched, so taking a lot of, occupying a lot of place at the world while you block? So with this your posture, with this you are standing, you block, you are covering, you are taking everybody's passage. Passage means a way. So because of your standing there, by occupying a lot of space, it is blocking, it is stopping the other people to walk, to pass by you. So man, so please stand aside. So please stand aside. Please take uh, some small place and stand one side. So in a single word, excuse me, and in these two words, it has a lot of meaning that just you are occupying other people's place, and so please stand aside. So this word excuse me, outer word in outwardly, it seems like a very simple expression, but it expresses a lot of meaning if we are able to understand it. When you send your card in, the busy man's secretary appears and whispers in your ear, would you like to wait? Though the tone is one of the consultation, you have really no choice in the matter. And in other situations, when you send your card in, for example, you want to meet a person, a famous person, a busy man, a busy person, and before entering into his room, you send your card, your name and your details, your visiting card with the secretary. Then the secretary uh, takes your card and goes into the room, and after some time comes out, and that secretary appears and whispers. Whispers means so telling in a lower voice. That secretary tells in your ear, in our ear, would you like to wait? So, so that secretary whispers in our ears that would you like to wait? That the boss or that person is little bit busy now. So, would you like to wait? Do you want to wait? So the tone is one of the consultation. So the tone, the voice, the expression uh, by the secretary seems like a consultation. It want to convince us to wait. You have really no choice in the matter, but we are not left by any choice, but we have to wait there because very politely the secretary asks us to wait and we are having no choice, just we have to wait there. The thing to do is not to answer the question but say thanks and look for a comfortable seat in the waiting room. Although you may feel like saying, no, I wouldn't like to wait, I have other things to do. The thing to do is not to answer the question. So instead of answering the question, would you like to wait? Immediately the secretary says, thanks, uh, and look for a comfortable seat and shows us a seat in the waiting hall, in the waiting room. Although you may feel like saying, actually, after listening the secretary's suggestion, the voice, immediately actually we want to say, no, I wouldn't like to wait. No, I am not at all ready to wait. I do not wait. I have other things to do. I have many other things to do. I am also busy and I have to go out and I have to do my own things. This actually we would like to say, but the secretary does not give us, does not leave us any room to express this thing. And the secretary, by saying thanks, show our seat. So in that situation, we are not left by any kind of uh, uh, any kind of thing to say, but to wait till the person gives us the appointment. So these are the some of the important observations that R.K. Narayan has observed during his visit or stay in America and in Western countries. So in this way, where English language has bazaar status of usage, the language is functioning in a different way. So in this way, after observing all these happenings, the usage of English language in different countries, R.K. Narayan, in the end of the essay, is suggesting us to uh, invent and to adopt English language according to our needs, requirements also in the closing paragraph of the essay of the lesson. So now we try to see the closing paragraph of the lesson. The time has come for us to consider seriously the question of a Bharat brand of English. Here, some sentences are omitted because the syllabus designers thought that these sentences are not important to see here in this context. So they removed those sentences. And continuation to this sentence is this part. So far, English has had a comparatively confined existence in our country, chiefly in the halls of learning, justice, or administration. So now R.K. Narayan, in the end of the lesson, the closing paragraph, he appeals us to think that the time has come. Now this is the time to think, for us to think, to consider. Now we have to think very seriously. This is the time to think seriously. The question of Bharat brand of English. Now we have to deal, we have to think about the question, the thing about Bharat brand of English. So now we have to think about English that should be branded as Bharat brand, means that suits to the situations, the context of Indian society, our culture. So now, as Americans have invented a language, English language, adopted an English language uh, that suits to their requirement. In the same way, now we Indians also have to think the English language that suits to our conditions, our culture. So now he asks for the question to think on the question of Bharat brand of English. So far, English has had a comparatively confined existence. So far, up to now, the English language has had this language had a comparatively. So when we when we compare our English language, Indian English language, to that of American English or British English, comparing to them comparatively, our English, Indian English, the usage of the language in India, it confined, it is restricted. The language is restricted. Its presence is restricted in our country. Majorly, the use of English language in our country, in India, it has a limited scope of use. It is not a street language in India. It does not have a bazaar status in Indian society, but it, its role is very much confined. And in our country, English language is chiefly, it confines to the halls of learning. So English language is majorly used in the halls of learning, means it is used mostly in classrooms, schools, colleges. It is used English. And also it is confined to the field of justice. So law and courts, we use English language, or administration. And also English language is used for the administrative purposes. So in these areas only, majorly, English language is confined in our Indian context. Now the time is ripe for it to come to the dusty street, marketplace, and under the banyan tree. English must adopt the complexion of our life and assimilate uh, its idiom. I am not suggesting here a mongrelization of the language. So R.K. Narayan tells us that now the time is ripe. Now the time has come. So far the language is only, English is only confined to classrooms, court of law, and administration. But now the time has come to the dusty street. So now it is the time to bring the language into the streets, the dusty streets. So the common areas, the common places where common men treat. So there we have to bring the English language, and we have to bring this language to the marketplace, and where commonly uh, the language is supposed to be used in very common places like markets, shops, and under the banyan tree. So in Indian culture, generally we people at our leisure time, we meet under banyan tree, and we have a kind of chit chat of that area. So, so this is a very common, these contexts are very common usages of a language. Streets, in marketplaces are under banyan trees. So now R.K. Narayan is appealing all of us to bring English language to these places. So to make this language, there is a need to make this language a common man's language, everyone's language. So this is the time has arrived. So now we have to think very seriously about these things. And English must adopt the complexion. So in this way, language should be, when we introduce the language in this context, it should not lose its complexion, means it's a natural way. English should be adopted as its natural way, and our life, and assimilate its idiom. So in this way, this language has to become the part of our life, our everyday life. It should be a natural, it should be presented, used in a natural way. So in this way, we have to bring the language into common man's fold. I'm not suggesting here a mongrelization of the language. So by saying this, I am not suggesting, my idea is not that, my point is not that here of a mongrelization of the language. So R.K. Narayan is not in favor, he does not suggest to mongrelization. Mongrelization means breeding between two different species, two different varieties of species, so of the language. So R.K. Narayan's idea is not to mix up English with our local Indian languages and to invent a new language, to bring up a new language. He is not suggesting us that. He wants to be English to be functioned in its own natural way. But we have to, the need is that we have to bring this language into common man's usage. So I am not recommending that we should back to the days uh, when, particularly in the railway, where you going man, Bharat English will respect and maintain the dignity of grammar, but still have a Swadeshi stamp on it unmistakably, like the Madras handloom check shirt or the Tirupati doll. So in this way, in the end of the essay, R.K. Narayan he is recommending that we should not be back uh, to those days. So we should not to bring English language, a common man's language, a street language. We should not make it to those days, particularly when in railways, very often, very commonly English used like this: where you going, man? Actually, where are you going, man? To, instead of saying that, they used to use this kind of expression. So this is not the way to adopt English language, use English language. Bharat, if we invent a new English, Bharat brand of English, that English will respect, that English definitely it respects, it follows and maintain. This English maintains the dignity. It never hurts, harms the dignity of the language. It follows the rules of grammar of that language, but still have a Swadeshi stamp. So this language, by strictly following the rules of grammar, the English language grammar rules, but it will have its a kind of Swadeshi stamp that suits the culture, that represents, that suits to the culture of India, and it unmistakably, so without committing any kind of mistakes in the grammar, by having Swadeshi stamp, our own brand, we can use this language. Like the Madras handloom check shirt. For example, if we see the expression Madras handloom check shirt, so when we are talking about check shirt and handloom by made by handlooms or handloom workers, Madras handloom check shirts. So this check shirt is totally prepared by Madras handloom workers, and it retained its name as it is. Uh, uh, there is no change in its nomenclature. It perfectly does have its own kind of name. And in the same way, Tirupati doll. So the dolls which are made in Tirupati, also known as Tirupati dolls, with that name, with that area's name. So in this way, we can have our own brand of English uh, uh, to make it is a common man's language. So through this essay, R.K. Narayan uh, appeals all Indians to use English language that suits to our requirements, our needs. So this is all the text part of the lesson Toasted English, in which R.K. Narayan um, presents his observations during his stay in America in the usage of English language that was modified by Americans according to their requirements. And he also gave some examples, some basic keywords which are used by most of the Americans, which suit to any kind of situation. Later, he presented his experiences and the use of English language in some of the Western countries. And in the end of the essay, R.K. Narayan appeals all the Indians to adopt English language according to our needs and our requirements. So with this, we have completed the entire text of the essay. So uh, here I conclude the presentation, and I stop my presentation, and I thank you all for listening this presentation.